Tuesday?
Bill, are you saying, are you asking what's going to happen at the meeting on Tuesday? Is that what you're asking?
Of course. I'm sorry. Yes.
All right. Well, the DARC has a general meeting coming up Tuesday. What is it? The 6th. It is. Yeah, Tuesday the 6th. And we'll be having a meeting there. And, just Jim Eatman is going to be our presenter, and he's going to talk about compact antennas and the performance of it and all that kind of stuff. So come on out. It'll be a lot of fun. And we also have I think we're also talking about we're changing something in the bylaws, so we need to vote as well there too. So come on out. We need as many people as can to vote, and so that's what I got. KFIZBL.
Thank you very much, Bill. So, remember, it's coming Tuesday evening. It's 6 p.m. for the board meeting and 7 p.m. for the club meeting at the 635 Webb Chapel Hospital there. Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting. Okay, so there will be no MSAT meeting this coming Tuesday. There will be the following Tuesday. On Wednesday evenings, there is an MSAT West night meeting, on the air, a net, not a meeting, a net, that is at 9 p.m. on the Arlington 147.14 megahertz repeater. It's Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington 147.14. More satellite stuff. Then on Fridays, on this repeater, 146.88, we have the CERT City Simulation Net at 8 p.m. If anything can go wrong, it goes wrong in CERT City. About emergency CERT trained radio operators and what they do. Then on Saturdays, we have TechNet at 7 p.m. and, of course, this net, Skynet, at 9 p.m. And then we have the Afterglow net at 10:30. And then every night of the week at 6:30 p.m. on this repeater, we have the early National Traffic System Training Net, where we move message traffic like telegrams. Then at 9:30 every night of the week, that same net also is held on the Irving repeater, 146.72 megahertz. The Afterglow movie tonight is about a certain franchise that's been on TV and then movies for many years. Tom, KU5ICX, you want to tell us about what's going to happen at 10:30 this evening on the Afterglow net? This is N5BB.
Well, thank you, Bill. Let me give you the highly accurate synopses for tonight's movie. JJ drove down the Beverly Hills Street. It was trash day, and Gene Roddenberry's son, Rod, had cleaned out his dad's old office. JJ knew that, and this was his first and last opportunity to lift a Star Trek movie idea from the lost notes, all just sitting on the curb, waiting for trash pickup. He opened up a bag. Inside, some script ideas. A Kennedy assassination time travel plot. Check. And another. Kirk meets Hitler's father. That one's different. And finally, evil scientists grow people plants. Sounds a little lost and spacey. JJ rolled his eyes. These ideas sucked. It sounded like illicit drugs were involved in Roddenberry's creative process. Then he saw script gold. Starfleet Academy days. A young Kirk and Spock at the old Academy. JJ turned off his headlights to ensure he wasn't followed. Join us for the first Star Trek reboot called, of course, simply Star Trek from 2009, tonight at 10:30 p.m. Or, by the way, just for the record, all those ideas that I just gave you, were actually created by Gene Roddenberry. Back to you, Bill. KP5 ICS.
Well, thank you, Tom. Okay, next, do we have any additional check-ins for Skynet? This is N5BB, net control.
This is Whiskey Bravo number 4, Mike Foxtrot India, WB4MFI, Ted Dallas, low power, watching Star Trek at this moment.
Oh my. Ted's now a Trekkie. WB4MFI. We have you, Ted. Welcome to the net. Next, we have, I know you've all been waiting for this, the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events. When and where you can look through a telescope if it's not cloudy, which can be a problem, but it's been very erratic here recently. Chaz, KF5JHA. Tell us about the test. This is N5BB.
Thank you, Bill. Good evening, everyone. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. The next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting will be held on Friday, February the 24th, in person at the University of Texas at Dallas, and also held on Zoom. The featured speaker is Dr. Renee James, talking about things that go bump in the universe. I think this is going to be very interesting. Now, we continue our Saturday night public observing session. Skynet was picked to be on Saturday night so that there could be an opportunity for live reports from the TASS public observing session. Now, on the first Saturday of the month, that would be tonight, stargazing is held at Fairview. Now, I know there's a couple of different ham radio operators that actually are at that session, but whether they have ham radios or not, I don't know. But if there's someone there that's still there, if they'd like to make a report, come now with your call sign. Well, I hope it was held tonight because it cleared out pretty well by sunset here in Mesquite. So anyway, check the TASS website, texasastro.org, for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. And this is KF5JHA, back to our net control, N5BB. Bill, it's back to you.
Very good. Thank you, Chaz. Do we have any additional check-ins? Okay, I don't see any additional people on EchoLink. Next, we have the National Space Society events, and that's me. So I am the membership director and the member at large of the North Texas chapter of the National Space Society, abbreviated NSS. This is a nonprofit group that's interested in space and publicizing news about space. That's human activities in space, I should say. If you're interested in the National Space Society, please contact Bill in 5BB at space@byrom.net, that's BYROM.net, or N5BB@ARRL.net. The National Space Society North Texas chapter meets on the second Sunday afternoon of each month, except for December, when we have a holiday party. We meet at Spring Creek Barbecue at the southwest corner. I have a typo, an error actually, what I typed in. It's the southwest corner of Highway 183 and Beltline Road in Irving. Our meetings start at 3:30 p.m. and the presentation starts around 4 p.m. This is a hybrid meeting with both WebEx virtual access and meeting in person at the restaurant with a camera and RF remote microphones. I don't yet know the topic for that presentation. It's a week from tomorrow. It's February the 11th is the February meeting, Sunday afternoon. Today, Sunday, February the 3rd, the North Texas chapter of National Space Society members manned a booth at the Dallas Independent School District STEM event at the Dallas Convention Center between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. Great fun was had by all. Great event with lots of smart kids. On Saturday, February 17th, 3 of the North Texas chapter NSS members will judge space-related projects at the Dallas Regional Science and Engineering Fair at Fair Park in Dallas. And last but not least, in February, the North Texas chapter of the National Space Society sponsors a space rendezvous social event. Each month at Cheddar's Restaurant in Irving on the last Friday of the month, starting at 6 p.m. This restaurant's located on the south frontage road of Highway 635 between MacArthur Boulevard and Bush Turnpike. This month, the Space Rendezvous event will be on Friday, February the 23rd. It's just a social event. Come and sit and have a beer and have some food and talk about space. You can go to the National Space Society of North Texas website at ntx.nss.org. There's also an active Facebook page. Just search for National Space Society of North Texas in the search area on Facebook. Does anybody have any questions, comments, or late check-ins? This is N5BB. Skynet. Okay, unfortunately you have to listen to me further because we have the discussion topic of the evening where I'm going to talk about, it's a 2-for-1. You get 2 topics, but the first one's kind of short. We're going to talk about rotorcraft on other worlds. That's right, flying vehicles on other worlds, in this case, moons. And these rotorcraft are Ingenuity and Dragonfly. The Ingenuity Mars helicopter has made, unfortunately, its last flight due to rotor damage. But the Dragonfly Octocopter project is moving forward with the goal of launching in July 2028 and arriving on Titan, the largest moon of Saturn, in 2034. So first, let's quickly talk about the Ingenuity helicopter. There is a Perseverance rover that has been on Mars since 2021. It landed February the 18th, 2021, so close to 3 years ago. And attached to the belly of the Perseverance rover was the Ingenuity helicopter. The rover released Ingenuity to the surface of Mars, and then drove off of it. And then the Ingenuity helicopter first lifted off from the Martian surface on April the 19th, 2021, proving that powered, controlled flight on Mars was possible. This wasn't really obvious. The atmosphere on Mars has a density of less than 1% of Earth's atmosphere at sea level. So the atmosphere is very been, requiring the helicopter to have extremely high-speed blades. So they're just buzzing. And even though the gravity is much less than on Earth, the density of the atmosphere required very high-speed engineering of the rotor system. So the Ingenuity helicopter has two, and it has some cameras. There's a navigation camera that looks down, that looks at how the rover is moving, how the helicopter is moving. So what it does is it looks at the surface and how it's changing, and it determines accurately from that how fast the rover is moving, and that's worked very well for navigation. And so on January the 18th of this year, a few weeks ago, the Ingenuity team, by the way, this is N5BB Skynet, net control. On January the 18th of this year, the Ingenuity's team planned for the helicopter to make a short vertical flight to determine its location after executing an emergency landing on the previous flight. And what happens usually on these emergency landings is that the navigation system in the helicopter thinks that it may be confused about what's going on, the attitude of the helicopter or the speed or something. So to protect the helicopter, it makes a rapid landing wherever it is, just to make sure it's safe. So it made on the previous flight, it made an emergency landing. And it's thought that the reason that it made the emergency landing was probably because it was over a sandy area without any rocks, and so everything more or less looked the same. There weren't any good features for the camera to pick out with the resolution of the camera and the altitude they were at. Anyway, so they were going to make a short vertical flight on January the 18th to determine its location. Data shows that as planned, the helicopter achieved a maximum altitude of about 40 feet, that's 12 meters, and hovered for 4.5 seconds before starting its descent at a velocity of about 3.3 feet per second, about 1 meter per second. However, about 1 meter above the surface, Ingenuity lost contact with the rover, which serves as a communications relay for the rotorcraft. The following day, communications were reestablished, and more information about the flight was relayed to ground controllers at NASA, JPL. Imagery revealed damage to the rotor blade. It took several days for that imagery to come through. The cause of the communications dropout and the helicopter's orientation at time of touchdown are still being investigated. I think there's some thought, one possibility is that the rover, for some reason, was at an angle, and as it came down low, that one of the blades touched the ground, and that caused a couple of things, possibly damage to the blade, and also it temporarily a very high power drain, and the high power drain may have caused the communications to drop. But that's not the final determination. They're still working on that. Over an extended mission that lasted for almost 1,000 Martian days, more than 33 times longer than originally planned, the Ingenuity helicopter was upgraded with the ability to autonomously choose landing sites in treacherous terrain. It dealt with a dead sensor. It cleaned itself after dust storms. It operated from 48 different airfields, different landing locations. It performed 3 emergency landings and survived a rigid Martian winter. Pretty good for a little thing that was supposed to just to see if it worked and maybe fly 5 times originally. It was designed to operate in the spring. It was unable to power its heaters throughout the night during the coldest parts of winter, resulting in the flight computer periodically freezing and resetting. These power brownouts required the team to redesign Ingenuity's winter operations in order to keep flying. But again, the rotor blade is damaged, so it can't fly anymore. With flight operations now concluded, the Ingenuity team will perform final tests on helicopter systems and download the remaining imagery and data in Ingenuity's onboard memory. The Perseverance rover is currently too far away to attempt to image the helicopter at its final airfield. It's humbling that Ingenuity not only carries on board a swatch from the original Wright Flyer, that's right, from the Wright brothers, but also this helicopter followed in its footsteps and proved flight is possible on another world, said Ingenuity's project manager, Teddy Sanitos of NASA JPL. The Mars helicopter would have never flown once, much less 72 times, if it were not for the passion and dedication of the Ingenuity and Perseverance teams. History's first Mars helicopter will leave behind an indelible mark on the future of space exploration, will inspire fleets of aircraft on Mars and other worlds for decades to come. Okay, so that was the deal with the Ingenuity helicopter. This is N5BB, Skynet. Now, with this other thing I mentioned, Dragonfly. Dragonfly is a car-sized, nuclear-powered rotorcraft. It will have 4 dual rotor blades. So if you've seen quadcopters that have 4 blades, this is the same thing, except on each of these blade locations, there's 2 blades that are counter-rotating. So there's a total of 8 blades in 4 locations. It's designed to fly in the thick atmosphere on Titan. Titan is a moon of Saturn. Titan is very similar to the very early Earth. So Titan, the radius of Titan is 98% that of Ganymede, the moon of Jupiter. So Titan is pretty much tied for the largest moon in the solar system. The radius of Titan is 105% that of Mercury, so it's larger than Mercury. So Titan, Mars, and 40% of the Earth by radius. The Dragonfly rotorcraft would travel at about 10 meters a second. That's about 22 miles an hour, and climb to an altitude of up to 4 kilometers, 13,000 feet. Wow. Dragonfly is the 4th in the NASA's New Frontiers portfolio, a series of principal investigator-led planetary science investigations that fall under a development cost cap of approximately $800. Launch services, the total cost projection is approximately $1 billion. This is N5BB, Skynet. Hold on while I find another document here. So, the revised timeline now is that in July of 2028. Okay? Originally it was going to launch in 2026, but that was delayed. It's still going to arrive about 2034. The Titan has a lot of organic materials. It has a lot of methane and other things that are organic. It leads to organic molecules. and it'll be advancing their search for the building blocks of life. The Dragonfly mission will fly multiple sorties to sample and examine sites around Saturn's icy moon. It's thought that on Titan, methane exists both as a liquid in a big oceans, as a solid in some areas, frozen, and as a gas, just like water does on the Earth. The Rotorcraft will fly to dozens of prominent locations on Titan, looking for prebiotic chemical processes common to both Titan and Earth. It marks the first time NASA will fly a multi-rotor vehicle for science on another planet. It has 8 rotors and flies like a large drone. It'll take advantage of Titan's dense atmosphere. It's 4 times denser than Earth's, to become the first vehicle ever to fly its entire science payload to new places. So it's flying everything around. It's not just like Ingenuity helicopter, just flying a little camera around, it's flying the whole science mission around. Anyway, Dragonfly took advantage of 13 years worth of Cassini probe data to choose a calm weather period to land, along with a safe initial landing site and scientifically interesting targets. It'll land first at the equatorial Shangri-La dune field, which are terrestrially similar to the linear dunes in Namibia, northern Africa. That's all I had about that topic. So this is going to be very interesting as the second extraterrestrial rotorcraft gets launched here in a few years and gets to another moon. Okay, next, are there any additional check-ins, questions, or comments? For Skynet, this is N5BB, next roll. Okay, we have a news update from Echolink. Bob the Cat is now outdoors. So, Chaz, does this mean the coast is clear for you to talk about what's up without Bob the Cat interfering? KF5GHA, this is N5BB. What's up, Chaz?
Yeah, I think it's my fault. I didn't check in Bob the Cat when I checked in earlier, so he left. Okay, well, that's a good thing, too. That way he's not walking on the keyboard of the computer that I'm on right now. Okay. Slide Master, that would be Tom. Slide number 2, please. This is Chaz, KF5JHA, and we call this segment of Skynet What's Up, because it's all about what's going on astronomically over the next couple of weeks and beyond. Slide number 3, please. Do you know we've just completed our 12th year of Skynet, and we've just started our 13th year? It was Tom General's idea to have a net about astronomy. Tom had heard that there had been a net about astronomy in the past, but it had faded away. We are still trying to do some research on that earlier astronomy net. If you have any information about that earlier astronomy net, please let me know. Please contact me. Slide Master, slide number 4, please. I received my ham license on December the 14th, 2010, and I attended my first DARC meeting on January the 4th, 2011. I remember that Tom General was the president of DARC at the time, and when my membership application came up for a vote, I had listed being an astronomer. Tom said that he wanted to talk to me after the meeting about an idea he had. The idea was to have a net on astronomy. I had no idea what a net was, but he needed someone like me to be involved. So I said, okay, not knowing what I was getting myself into. Slide Master, slide number 5, please. Over the course of that year, Tom and I talked and emailed and Well, an outline was created for the net, only 3 pages in length, and if you're on the video version of Skynet, you probably see these 3 pages. And there was some links on the 4th page. I still have a copy of that first night's Skynet script. It was decided that Saturday night would be a good time for the net since the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas had observing stations on Saturday night, and then we might be able to get live reports over the air from the observing stations, and that's happened a few times. I've even been on an observing session a couple of times and reported in from them. Slide number 6, please. Most of you understand that I use double meanings on words to my advantage for jokes and puns and, well, you know. So I suggested the name Skynet. If you don't know where the name Skynet came from, just Google it and you'll see. I believe January the 9th, 2012 was our first Skynet. We had a few hams that signed into the net. If I remember right, we had several questions that I answered, but Tom was the net control, and he did the heavy lifting. The net was scheduled to be about an hour, but actually went on for more than 2 hours. With Tom's encouragement, a couple of months later, I did my first net control on Skynet. Now we've settled on an hour-and-a-half length for Skynet, with the Afterglow movie net that follows. Okay, enough of that history, but I thought I'd just let you know about our past. Slide Master, slide number 7, please. So on February the 2nd, the moon phase was the 3rd quarter. So the current phase of the moon is a waning crescent. On February the 9th, the moon will be new. On February the 10th, the moon is at perigee, which is a point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance of 358,088 kilometers. On February the 16th, the moon, I misspelled moon. I don't know how to spell moon. On February the 16th, the moon will be at its 1st quarter phase. On February the 24th, the moon will be full. On February the 25th, the moon will be at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of 406,312 kilometers. Slide Master, slide number 8. These are going to be in rapid succession. There's going to be a conjunction of the moon and the minor planet Ceres in the southeastern morning sky on February the 6th. Now, you're going to need a pair of binoculars or a telescope to find it, but I want to talk about some of the minor planets over the next year because you can easily see them from just inside the city. Most of the time, all you need are a pair of binoculars. But a telescope is a good thing, too. Slide Master, slide number 9. On February the 7th, there's going to be conjunction of the moon and the planet Venus. Don't need any binoculars for that. That's going to be in the southeastern morning sky. All you need is your 2 eyeballs. Slide Master, slide number 10. On February the 8th, there's going to be a conjunction of the moon and Mercury. That's just the next morning in the east-southeastern morning sky. So Venus and Mercury are not that far apart. But this is going to be in strong twilight, so you might need your binoculars just to spot the moon and Mercury before you find Mercury with just your 2 eyes. Slide Master, slide number 11. February the 10th, conjunction of the moon and Saturn in the southwestern evening sky. That's just a few days later, so the moon swings from being in the morning sky to the evening sky. February the 11th, that would be slide number 12. There's going to be conjunction of the moon and Neptune in the west-southwestern evening sky. Now, Neptune is the furthest planet away from the sun. No, Pluto's not a full-fledged planet anymore. It's a dwarf planet. So Neptune is kind of far away. You'll need probably a telescope to find Neptune. But opportunities to find Neptune are easier when you've got the moon that's not too close, not too far away, and the moon is a thin crescent, so it doesn't interfere by being too bright. That was slide number 12. Slide number 13. On Valentine's Day, February the 14th, there's going to be a junction of the moon and Jupiter in the about a few minutes ago, letting a cat outside. That bright thing in the western sky, that's Jupiter. So on February 14th, that's just, 11 days from now, you'll see Jupiter and the moon next to each other in conjunction. Slide Master, slide number 14. February the 15th, the very next night, there's going to be a junction of the moon and the planet Uranus in the southwestern evening sky. Once again, you'll need a pair of binoculars. You can see Uranus with a pair of binoculars, but a telescope, and you probably would need a good star map so you know which little dot in your field of view is the planet Uranus. Slide Master, slide number 15. On February the 16th, there's a conjunction of the moon and the star cluster, the Pleiades, in the southern evening sky. Now, that's going to be pretty high up in the sky. What's really interesting is this year, we're going to have the moon plow right through the Pleiades star cluster a couple of times, so we'll be able to see what we call occultation of the Pleiades. That means the moon will be covering them up. That was one of the first things that they did back... Oh, I'm not that old. Never mind. I won't tell you the year. But that was one of the first things I recorded in my observation book, was the occultation of the Pleiades star cluster by the moon. Slide Master, slide number 16. On March the 24th and 25th, there's going to be a penumbral eclipse of the moon. The Earth's shadow has two parts, a darker part called the umbra and the lighter part called the penumbra. About 96% of the moon will go into the penumbra during this eclipse, and the moon's brightness will only be dimmed slightly. The eclipse begins at 11:53 p.m. Central Daylight Time, that's on March the 24th. At 2:14 a.m., March 25th, that will be when the eclipse is at its maximum with 96% of the moon inside the penumbra. Again, it's only going to look slightly dimmer. At 4:32 a.m. Central Daylight Time, that's again on March the 25th, the eclipse ends when the moon leaves completely the penumbra. Slide Master, slide number 17. A much more memorable thing is going to happen on April the 8th. So remember that we have another solar eclipse coming up in about 2 months. What is that thing? Oh, it's a solar eclipse. It's when the moon is in between the Earth and the sun, and for a few lucky people on the Earth, the moon blocks out some or all of the sun from our field of view. Slide number 18. On April the 8th, 2024, that's not too far away, is a total solar eclipse for us here in North Texas. From the Brookhaven campus of the Dallas College, the sun will be completely blocked out for around 3 minutes, actually 21 seconds, from 1:41 p.m. until 1:44 p.m. During that time, called totality, you'll be able to see stars in the sky just like it were evening twilight. It doesn't get completely dark, but it's pretty dark. The next total solar eclipse after that one, visible for North Texas, won't be until the year. Put this on your calendar, folks. July the 9th, 2317. So this total solar eclipse is a very big deal since it only happens about once every 300 years in North Texas. The entire downtown hotel system is pretty much booked solid. And there's going to be a closing of streets in downtown Dallas for a street festival that's going to happen during the total eclipse. All of the Dallas College campuses will have observing sessions. We're expecting thousands of people from all over the world to be here in Dallas to observe this event. Millions of people are expected to travel into North Texas. In fact, several school districts are now closing on that day. Ennis, town of Ennis, their school district is closed that day for the eclipse. Wow. And this is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 19, please. Okay, so do any of you out there in Radio Land have any questions or need a fill on any of the information? Or maybe you just have a general astronomy question. I love to hear questions. Come now with your call sign if you have a question or need a fill. Well, all of you out there must know more than I do, because I don't have all the answers. Slide Master, slide number 20. So as the moon wanes, so is this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live. And until next time, well, actually, I'll be doing another segment on Skynet in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is KF5JHA, back to our net control, Bill, N5BB. I'll be back in a few minutes.
Pretty good. Thank you, Chaz. Let's see. This is N5BB, Skynet. I noticed some new stations. Let's see. N5OF Clay already checked in earlier on Echolink. John KG5ZWE. Would you like to check in to Skynet? I guess not. Okay. Do we have any other stations that would like to check in to Skynet? If so, please come down with your call sign, your name, and your location. This is N5BB, Skynet.
Kilo Charlie 5, Mike, Papa Oscar, Jamie, Oak Cliff.
Kilo 5, Juliet, Delta Whiskey, John and Copperell.
Okay, I recognize Jamie, KC5MPO, and John, you made it, K5JDW. Okay? Any other check-ins? Okay. Next, I'm getting lost here. Okay, Brenda, let's see, just a minute. I think it's your turn, Brenda, if I'm reading this correctly, for space exploration and space history. So WB5OZL, take it away, Brenda. This is N5BB, Skynet.
Thank you. This is WB5OZL. And we'll start off with space exploration news. An X-ray image of the universe reveals almost 1 million high-energy objects. These are mind-blowing numbers. The first data released to the public from the E-Rosetta Sky Survey comprises an X-ray view of half of the sky over Earth, encompassing almost 1 million high-energy cosmic sources, including over 700,000 supermassive black holes. This catalog, dubbed the E-Rosetta All-Sky Survey Catalog, or ERASI, was published on Thursday, February 1st. It constitutes the largest ever catalog of the universe's most powerful sources of energy, like exploding massive stars and black hole-powered active galactic nuclei that shine brightly in the X-rays. The release also details the largest known structures in the universe, cosmic web filaments of hot gas that connect galaxies in clusters. The results show that in just half a year of operations beginning after launch on July 13, 2019, E-Rosetta has managed to discover more high-energy X-ray sources than has been found in 6 decades of examining the sky. Next, the Dream Chaser in Sandusky, Ohio. Ohio is the home of the Wright brothers, known as the birthplace of aviation. But the state also has some serious spaceflight bona fides, as we were reminded during an event on Thursday, February 1st. On that day, NASA and the Colorado-based company Sierra Space gave reporters an up-close look at Dream Chaser, a private space plane scheduled to fly its first ever mission to the International Space Station later this year. The event took place at NASA's Neil Armstrong Test Facility in Sandusky. The robotic Dream Chaser and his cargo module, vehicles named today as they will be during launch. The duo stood 55 feet tall, roughly the length of a school bus, and that's the length of 2 giraffes, or the height. Space-related birthdays. John M. Fabian, January 29, 1939, flew on STS-7 and 51G. David C. Hilmers, born 28 January 1950, Missions were STS-51J, STS-26, 36, and 42. Christina Koch, 29 January 1979, flew on Soyuz MS-12/Soyuz MS-13, Expedition 59, 60, and 61, and Artemis II. Wally Funk, 39 January 1939, flew on NS-16. Daniel M. Taney, February 1st, 1961, STS-108, 120, and 22, which was Expedition 16. Finally, Joe F. Edwards, Jr., February 3rd, 1958, was on STS-89. Okay, this week in space history, January 31st, on this day in 71, NASA launched the Apollo 14 mission from NASA's Kennedy Space Center's Launch Complex 39A. The Antares lunar module touched down at the Frau Morrow Highlands on February 5th, 1971, with Commander Alan Shepard and lunar module pilot Edgar Mitchell, while Stuart Roosa continued to orbit the moon in the Apollo Command and Service module named Kitty Hawk. Shepard, the first American in space, became the oldest man to walk on the moon to this date. January 28th, 1986, the shuttle Challenger exploded, killing all 7 crew members. The Rogers Commission, which convened shortly afterwards, concluded that an O-ring seal in one of Challenger's solid booster rockets failed to contain pressurized burning gas that leaked out of the booster, causing a structural failure of Challenger's external tank and the orbiter's subsequent disintegration due to aerodynamic forces. NASA's organizational culture was also scrutinized by the Rogers Commission, and the Space Shuttle program's goal of replacing the United States expendable launch systems was cast into doubt. Then on February 1st, the Challenger explosion. On Saturday, February 1st, 2003, Space Shuttle Columbia disintegrated as it re-entered the atmosphere over Texas and Louisiana, killing all 7 astronauts on board. It was the second Space Shuttle mission to end in disaster after the loss of Challenger and crew in 1986. The mission, designated STS-107, was 28th flight for the orbiter, the 113th flight of the Space Shuttle fleet, and the 88th after the Challenger disaster. It was dedicated to research in various fields, mainly on board the Space Hab module inside the shuttle's payload bay. During launch, a piece of the insulating foam broke off from the Space Shuttle external tank and struck the thermal protection system tiles on the orbiter's left wing. Similar foam shedding had occurred during previous Space Shuttle launches, causing damage that ranged from minor to near catastrophic. But some engineers suspected the damage to Columbia was more serious. Before re-entry, NASA managers had limited the investigation, reasoning that the crew could not have fixed the problem if it had been confirmed. When Columbia re-entered the atmosphere of Earth, the damage allowed hot atmospheric gases to penetrate the heat shield and destroy the internal wing structure, which caused the orbiter to become unstable and break apart. And January 31st, 1958, Explorer 1 became the first U.S. satellite successfully launched into space. This satellite had a clear-cut scientific objective. The primary science instrument on Explorer 1 was a cosmic ray detector designed to measure the radiation environment in Earth orbit. Once in space, this experiment provided by Dr. James Van Allen of the University of Iowa revealed a much lower cosmic ray count than expected. Van Allen theorized that the instrument may have been saturated by a very strong radiation from a belt of charged particles trapped in space by Earth's magnetic field. The existence of these radiation belts was confirmed by another U.S. satellite launched 2 months later, and it became known as the Van Allen belts in order of their discoverer. Okay, that's all I got. Back to net. This is WB5OZL.
Thank you very much, Brenda. Do we have any questions, comments, or check-ins? This is N5BB, Skynet.
This is Whiskey 5 Golf Uniform Sierra, Gus, Far North Dallas.
Hi, Gus, W5GUS. Do we have any other check-ins? I see nobody else on Echo Link that hasn't already checked in here. Chaz, why don't you give us Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week? KF5JHA. This is N5BB. Skynet is in progress.
Thank you again, Bill. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. Slide Master, slide number 21. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent Key, Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012. Just talked about that earlier, didn't I? Until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen over Texas throughout the year, out of the 88 total number of constellations. So Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen over North Texas in a year. And in her honor, we've continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Miss Carolyn's constellation of the week this week is Lepus the Hare. Lepus is the Hare, and it's an ancient constellation that is considered to be the prey that Orion the Hunter and his two hunting dogs, Canis Major and Canis Minor, are pursuing in the sky. Slide Master, slide number 22. What I consider, well, maybe sometimes I consider, the most important part of Skynet, the jokes of the week. All right, so here's a good question. What do rabbits say before they eat? Let us pray. Get it? Let us pray. Okay. What's the difference between a healthy rabbit and an odd rabbit? One is a fit bunny, the other is a bit funny. Had to practice that one. What airline do English rabbits use? British Airways. Airways? Yeah, British Airways. There you go. What do you call 100 rabbits walking backwards? That would be a receding hairline. What type of math are rabbits the best at? Oh, come on, all of you've got the answer to that one. Multiplication, of course. How many magicians does it take to pull out a rabbit out of a hat? How many magicians does it take to pull a rabbit out of the hat? Well, that's a trick question. Only one. Slide Master, slide number 23. Let's get on to the constellation information. The star Gamma Lepus is easily split double star. It can be seen as a double star at low power, at 40 power. Burnham's Celestial Handbook calls the pair of stars an easy and appealing object for even the smallest telescopes. Some sources say that Gamma Lepus can even be split with a pair of binoculars, earning its position in the Astronomical League Binocular Double Star Club. I'll need to try that sometime. I don't think I've ever done that. And an 8-inch telescope, the primary star looks white and a yellow-white companion. Burnham's Celestial Handbook notes that the star's proper motion through space closely matches that of Sirius, so perhaps Orion's great hunting dog really is preceding the Hare in the sky. Heinz Crimson Star, R. Lepus, quoting from the Constellation of the Month article on the task spectrum from, I think it's 2018, Heinz Crimson Star is a carbon star. Such stars have high amounts of carbon in them, and the carbon removes a little bit of the blue light and that radiates from the star, so these stars shine with a deep red color. The star appears very red in an 8-inch scope, although it was not as red as Herschel's Garnet star in Cepheus. Heinz star appears to be more of an orange red. Unfortunately, when Lepus is well placed for viewing, the southern portion of Cepheus is very low in the northern sky, so it's difficult to make a side-by-side comparison of the two stars. And this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 24, please. Oh, and I almost skipped something. Carolyn would be upset because she loved she loved variable stars. R. Lepus is a Miro-type variable with a 432-day period of time. Slide number 24 is about M79. It's the only Messier object in Lepus, or Lepus. It's a globular cluster. Walter Scott Houston noted that M79 is visible in binoculars under good dark sky conditions, so it's a definite contender, or actually it's a good thing, for the Binocular Messier Club, even though Burnham's Celestial Handbook notes that M79 is not one of the more brilliant globulars and becomes a truly impressive object only in rather large telescopes. Indeed, in his book, The Messier Object, Stephen James Amira writes that at the Oak Ridge Station at Harvard, Massachusetts, he once tuned in a 16-inch reflector toward M79 and resolved it down to the core. In an 8-inch telescope, M79 looks nice, but it's obvious that more aperture is needed. But an 8-inch telescope, it can just start to be resolving a few stars in the cluster on the outer fringes, mostly a round fuzzy glow with a bright core. Slide Master, slide number 25, please. The object NGC, which stands for New General Catalog 2017, is an open cluster near Alpha Lepus. Though originally identified as an open cluster, NGC 2017 is now believed to be a multiple star system. It looks like 4 bright stars with some fainter ones around it. The bright stars are notable for their variation in color, and you may be able to make out the colors of orange, yellow, white, and blue-white. Well, I'm going to look at that one sometime soon. Slide Master, slide number 26. IC418. It's called the Index Catalog, that's IC. But most people, when they say IC, it means you can't see it because they're usually very difficult to find in telescopes. But IC418 is also known as the Spirograph Nebula. You've seen pictures of it. It's not very easy to find, so in spite of this, you might be able to see IC418 in a 50 millimeter refractor finder scope if you look carefully. Walter Scott Houston, in his Deep Sky Wonders column, writes that because it's a 9th magnitude central star, this object is readily located by 7 by 50 binoculars. Wow, this is an IC. But when you use an 18 millimeter eyepiece, giving it over 100 magnification, it can show you a bit of width and actually stars in the field of view were focused to little points. In the Hubble Space Telescope, the photograph of IC418, the internal structure of IC418 is reminiscent of a spirograph drawing. Didn't all of us have those when we were growing up? Giving IC418 the moniker of Spirograph Nebula. And this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 27. Now, there are a few more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellation of Lepus the Hare. I've given you just a sampling of some of those objects. The Astronomical League has, at last count, 77 different observing programs, most of which around maybe 100 objects. So if you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pen in about a year. Slide Master, slide number 28. And that is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, Lepus the Hare. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for their research and words on deep sky objects that I use, borrow, and steal for every Skynet. I also at times use the website constellation-guide.com for information. Now next week, we're going to take a look at Auriga, or Riga, the charioteer, or the shepherd. That's pretty much overhead right now. Should be easy to spot. And this is KF5JJ, back to our net control, N5BB. Bill, it's all yours. 73, everyone.
Thank you very much, Chaz. Do we have any additional check-ins, comments, or questions? I don't see anybody else on Echolink. This is N5BB. Any more check-ins for Skynet? Whoops, sorry about that. This is N5BB, Skynet. Tom, let's skip right now the launches. Brenda, you want to talk about recent astronomical discoveries? WB5OZL, this is N5BB, Skynet.
Sure, this is WB5OZL. This article is entitled, Astronomers Detect Oldest Black Hole Ever Observed. Researchers have discovered the oldest black hole ever observed dating from the dawn of the universe and found that it is eating its host galaxy to death. The international team, led by the University of Cambridge, used the NASA ESA CSA James Webb Space Telescope, JWST, to detect the black hole, which dates from 400 million years after the Big Bang, more than 13 billion years ago. The results, which lead author Professor Roberto Maulino says are a giant leap forward, are reported in the journal Nature. This is surprisingly this surprisingly massive black hole, a few million times the mass of our sun, even exists so early in the universe, challenges our assumptions about how black holes form and grow. Astronomers believe that the supermassive black holes found at the center of galaxies like the Milky Way grew to their current size over billions of years, but the size of this newly discovered black hole suggests they might form in other ways. They might be born big, or they could eat matter at a rate that's 5 times higher than that had been thought possible. According to standard modules, supermassive black holes form from the remnants of dead stars, which collapse and may form a black hole about 100 times the mass of the sun. If it grew in an expected way, this newly detected black hole would take about 1 billion years to grow to its observed size. However, the universe was not yet 1 billion years old when this black hole was detected. It's very early in the universe to see a black hole this massive, so we've got to consider other ways they might form, said Maulino from Cambridge's Cavendish Laboratory and Kavli Institute of Cosmology. Very early galaxies were extremely gas-rich, so they would have been like a buffet for black holes. Like all black holes, this young black hole is devouring material from its host galaxy to fuel its growth. Yet this ancient black hole is found to gobble matter much more vigorously than its siblings at later epochs. The young host galaxy, called GNZ11, glows from such an energetic black hole at its center. Black holes cannot be directly observed, but instead they are detected by the telltale glow of a swirling accretion disk, which forms near the edges of a black hole. The gas in the accretion disk becomes extremely hot and starts to glow and radiate energy in the ultraviolet range. This strong glow is how astronomers are able to detect black holes. GNZ11 is a compact galaxy about 100 times smaller than the Milky Way, but the black hole is likely harming its development. The black holes consume too much gas. It pushes the gas away like an ultra-fast wind. This wind could stop the process of star formation, slowly killing the galaxy, but also kill the black hole itself, as it would also cut off the black hole's source of food. Now, Lino says that the gigantic leap forward provided by JWST makes this the most exciting time of his career. It's a new era. The giant leap in sensitivity, especially in the infrared, is like upgrading from Galileo's telescope to a modern telescope overnight, he said. Before Webb came online, I thought maybe the universe isn't so interesting when you go beyond what we can see with the Hubble Space Telescope. But that hasn't been the case at all. The universe has been quite generous in what it's showing us, and this is just the beginning. Malino says that the sensitivity of JWST means that even older black holes may be found in the coming months and years. Malino says and his team are hoping to use future observations from JWST to try to find smaller seeds of black holes, which may help them untangle the different ways that black holes might form, whether they start out large or they grow fast. The research was supported in part by the European Research Council, the Royal Society, and the Science and Technology Facilities Council, part of UK Research and Innovation. Back to net, that was from ScienceDaily.com. This is WV50ZL.
Thank you very much, Brenda. Okay, Tom, G5ICX. We've got about 5 minutes. Do you want to talk about any space launches for the week or any satellite, visible satellites? Anything of great interest? We've got about 5 minutes. K5ICX and 5BB.
Yeah, Bill, I can combine both segments. Let me give you launches coming up. We got Starlink 7-13 launching overnight, February 5th, 6th. This will be from Vandenberg. There will be 22 Starlink Internet satellites from Space Launch Complex 4E. Falcon 9's first stage booster will land on a drone ship. Of course, I Still Love You out in the Pacific Ocean. We have the PACE launch. That will be on February 6th, SLC-40 at Cape Canaveral. This is the NASA's Plankton Aerosol Cloud Ocean Ecosystem or PACE mission. Spacecraft is equipped with instruments to assess the health of oceans, measuring the distribution of phytoplankton on sometime in February from Launch Complex 39A, Falcon 9 IM-1 mission. This will be from Intuitive Machines, which, by the way, was a topic we discussed week before last. IM-1 mission will attempt to deliver a suite of manned payloads to the surface of the moon for NASA's Commercial Lunar Payload Services program. And then I'll give you 2 more here. We've got Falcon 9 launch on February 22nd. This will be with a crew of 8 from Launch Complex 39A. Crew Dragon spacecraft will launch on its 13th flight with astronauts. First stage booster will return to landing zone 1 at Cape Canaveral. Astronauts are Matthew Dominic and Michael Barrett. Jeanette Epps, along with Roscosmos cosmonaut Alexander Klobenkin, will launch on the Crew Dragon spacecraft to begin a 6-month expedition to the International Space Station. The Crew Dragon will return to its splashdown at sea off the coast of Florida. Let's see, another mission that's interesting, Falcon 9, the USSF 124. This will be from SLC-40 at Cape Canaveral in Florida. This is a mission for the U.S. Space Force and Missile Defense Agency. There's no other information. USSF 51, this will launch from SLC-41 right across the channel. Cape Canaveral Space Force Base, the Launch Complex Atlas V rocket designated AV-101 will launch the 51 mission for the U.S. Space Force. And then sometime in April 2024 will be the Atlas V CST-100 Starliner crew flight test to be determined. This will be from SLC-41 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Base in Florida. More on that as we get closer to the event. On the IS passes coming up, I've got several pretty good ones for ISS. Actually, there's only 3 listed, but 2 of them are good. We have February 3rd, that already happened, never mind. February 4th at 1857 in the evening at 1900, reached the highest point 34 degrees, and it'll fall to the south-southeast at 10 degrees. It's on February 4th, and then on February 11th, minus 0.5 magnitude, 6:50 in the morning, reaches the highest point of 15 degrees at 6:52, and it'll fall to the east at 6:54.
I'm completely operational, and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow Movie Net.
And Bill, I'm going to leave it at that. Back to you, KE5ICS.
Very good, Tom. I just sent you an email with an attached image, which you might find interesting. Tom just talked about the PACE, the Plankton Aerosol Cloud and Ocean Ecosystem satellite that's going up. PACE will help us better understand how the ocean and atmosphere exchange carbon dioxide. Additionally, it will reveal how aerosols might fuel phytoplankton growth in the surface ocean. PACE will help identify the extent and duration of harmful algal blooms and will extend and expand NASA's long-term observations of our living planet. This was a poster which I saw on January the 12th at Cape Canaveral at a tour I was getting of Kennedy Space Center and the Space Force area. And this was in the launch complex, which is it's officially the Launch Services Program Communications Center, Hangar AE. And this is where they've got all these desks and stations with monitors and everything, where they control and monitor the non-human launches, the launches of SpaceX and many other things. I thought you'd find that interesting, Tom, because you said PACE, and I thought, wow, they were talking about the PACE mission being the next big mission they were going to be launching there. Very neat. I've got more photos of that launch center, by the way. Okay, that's all we have. Do we have any tonight? We had 20. Well, first, let me ask: any last people that want to check into Skynet? Come down. Tonight we had 23 hams participating on the air. Thanks to all who checked in this evening to Skynet. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations. If you're interested, send an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics about this on Facebook and Twitter if you insist on going to those locations. You can also find out more by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. Until next Saturday night, this is N5BB closing a net at 10:32 p.m. Central Time. Returning the repeater to normal amateur use for Afterglow in just a moment. 73, everybody, ad astra. Enjoy the evening discovering the universe. N5BB clear. Tom, you want to talk about Afterglow? This is N5BB.
Yeah, thank you, Bill, and thank you for doing an excellent net. We will start Skynet in about 5 minutes, so go do what you need to do and come on back. We'll be talking about the 2009 reboot Star Trek series. with the first movie of that movie series called simply Star Trek. We'll be back in 5. KV5 ICM.
I had way too little sleep last night, so I did not see the movie, and I'm going to have to bug off now and not participate in Afterglow. Good evening to everyone, and to all a good night. This is N5BB Clear.
Okay, 5 minutes is up. It is now time for the Astro Movie Net. I'm Tom, KE5ICXWNet Control for this evening. Although anybody can if they want. If you'd like to volunteer anytime, please let me know, and I'll let you do it. I don't mind. Tonight's Astro movie is Star Trek from 2009. It was 2007. A couple of spots, but no, it's 2009. The Star Trek is a 2009 American science fiction film directed by J.J. Abrams. It's the 11th film in the Star Trek franchise, and it is a reboot that features the main characters of the original Star Trek series portrayed by a new cast as the first in a rebooted film series. They follow James T. Kirk, Spock, and aboard the USS Enterprise as they combat Nero, a Romulan from their future who threatens the United Federation of Planets. The story takes place in an alternate reality that features both an alternate birth location for James T. and further alterations in history stemming from the time travel of both Nero and the original series Spock, played by Leonard Nimoy. The alternate reality was created in an attempt to free the film and the franchise from established continuity constraints while simultaneously preserving original story elements. It also says this, and maybe you heard this earlier when I gave my highly accurate synopsis. The idea for a prequel film, which would follow the Star Trek characters during their time in Starfleet Academy, was discussed by series creator Gene Roddenberry way back in 1968. The concept resurfaced in the late 1980s when it was postulated by Hare as a possible plot line that would become Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, but it was rejected in favor of other projects by Roddenberry. So let me go through the plot a little bit here and what it was for those of you who may not have seen it, but may not have seen it recently. It's 2233. The Federation starship USS Kelvin investigates a lightning storm in space. Romulan ship Narada emerges from the storm and attacks the Kelvin and demands the Kelvin's captain, Captain Robel, who come aboard to negotiate a truce. He's questioned about the current star date, and an ambassador Spock, whom he does not recognize. Narada's commander Nero kills him and resumes attacking the Kelvin. George Kirk, Kelvin's first officer, orders the ship's personnel, including his pregnant wife Leona, to abandon ship while he pilots the Kelvin on a collision course with Narada. Since the Kelvin's autopilot is disabled, naturally, Kirk sacrifices his life to ensure Leona's survival, and she gives birth to James Tiberius Kirk. 17 years later, on the planet Vulcan, young Spock is admitted to the Vulcan Science Academy. Realizing the Academy uses human mother Amanda as a disadvantage, he joins Starfleet instead. On Earth, Kirk becomes reckless but intelligent adult. Following a bar fight with Starfleet cadets accompanying Nyota Uhura, Kirk meets Captain Christopher Pike, who encourages him to enlist in the Starfleet Academy, where Kirk meets and befriends Dr. Leonard McCoy. 3 years later, Commander Spock accuses Kirk of cheating during the Kobayashi Maru simulation. Kirk argues that cheating was acceptable because the simulation was designed to be undefeatable. The disciplinary hearing is interrupted by a distress signal with Vulcan. With the primary fleet out of range, cadets are mobilized. McCoy and Kirk board Pike's ship, the Enterprise. Realizing that the lightning storm observed near Vulcan is similar to the one that occurred while he was born, Kirk convinces Pike that the distress signal is a trap. When the Enterprise arrives, they find the fleet destroyed and Narada drilling into Vulcan's core. Narada attacks Enterprise and Pike surrenders, delegating command of the ship to Spock and promoting Kirk to first officer. Sulu and Chief Engineer Olsen, you know what's going to happen to him, perform a space jump onto a drilling platform. While Olsen is killed mid-jump, Kirk and Sulu disable the drill but are unable to stop Nero from launching red matter into the Vulcan's core, forming an artificial black hole that destroys Vulcan. The Enterprise rescues Spock's father, Sarek, and the High Council before the plane's destruction. But Amanda falls to her death before the transporter can lock onto her. Narada approaches Earth, and Nero torches Pike to access the first defense code. Spock maroons Kirk on Delta Vega, where he attempts mutiny. On the planet, Kirk encounters an older Spock on an alternate timeline who explains he and Nero are from 2387. In the future, Romulus was threatened by a supernova, which Spock attempted to stop with red matter. The plan failed, resulting in Nero's family perishing along with Romulus, while Narada and Spock's vessel were caught in a black hole and sent back into time. They were sent back 25 years apart. During that time, Nero attacked Kelvin, changing history and creating a parallel universe. After Spock's arrival, Nero stranded him on Delta Vega to watch Vulcan's destruction. Reaching a Starfleet outpost, Kirk and Elder Spock meet Montgomery Scott, who devises the transporter system, allowing him and Kirk's team onto the Enterprise. Following the Elder Spock's, Kirk provokes younger Spock into attacking, forcing Spock to recognize he is emotionally compromised and relinquish command to Kirk. After talking with Sarah, Spock decides to help Kirk. While Enterprise hides in the glass house of Titan, Kirk and Spock beam aboard Narada. Kirk fights Nero and rescues Pike, while Spock uses the Elder Spock's ship to destroy the drill. Spock leads Narada away from Earth and sets his ship to collide with Narada. Enterprise beams Kirk, Pike, and Spock aboard the Elder Spock's ship, and Narada collide, igniting the red matter. Narada is consumed in a black hole. That Enterprise barely escapes. And then finally, Kirk is promoted to captain and given command of the Enterprise, while Pike is promoted to rear admiral. Spock rather than what is logical. Spock becomes the first officer under Kirk's command. Enterprise goes to warp, and the Elder Spock speaks the where no man has gone before monologue yet again. Well, he did it in another one of the movies too. Okay, that's it. That's the script summary. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take check-in. Tonight, what we'll do, if you've never checked in before, you're listening for the first time. It's pretty straightforward. We check in, and then we just ask if you've seen the movie or not, along in that check-in, so that we can call upon you. The second thing we do is we go through the script. Or the story. Did the story make sense to you? Was it good dialogue, whatever? Second round, we discussed the characters and the acting. They work out okay. And the third round is anything you want, although we generally talk about special effects, music, anything that you saw, good, bad, or indifferent, or anything you may have not spoken about or wanted to comment on that was missed in the first two rounds. So that's it. I'll go ahead and take check-ins now. If you would like to join us, tonight's movie is Star Trek from 2009 with the J.J. Abrams reboot. Please come now with your call sign, your name, and did you see Star Trek from 2009?
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony here in East Dallas. Yes, I did see the movie.
Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth. Yes, I did see the movie.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brenda in Dallas. Yes, I saw the movie.
November Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia in Fort Worth. Yes, I saw the movie.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, Chaz. Yeah, Planet Earth. I've seen the movie, and instead of check-ins, shouldn't you have check-offs to coordinate with the movie?
Oh my. Okay, let me get those checked in. We have Tony, NT5TM in East Dallas. Yes, we saw the movie. KB9SOK, Sean over in Fort Worth. Yep, we saw the movie. WB50OZL, Brenda in Dallas. Yes, she saw the movie. NV5F Virginia in Fort Worth, yes, she saw the movie. And that guy, KF5JHA Chaz, over in Mesquite, Planet Earth, yes, he saw the movie as well. And yes, we should check off. Well, we should check on, check off once in a while too. Okay. Anyone else want to join us? Please come with your call. Your name did you see in Star Trek 2009? Okay, I have a feeling that maybe we'll get some other check-ins a little later, so let's go ahead and get started. I will go down the list, so be ready. Chaz, you must stay awake. NT5TM, Tony, what did you think about the plot for our fine film this evening from KE5ITX?
Well, you know, I was entertained, but I was also educated, and I didn't expect to be. A traditional Hollywood movie follows a very classical three-act structure where you meet everyone, exposition, Act 1, then the conflict begins after some inciting action, that's Act 2. Then we have Act 3, which must contain both a ticking clock and the resolution. This movie used a interesting even-numbered act structure. It showed me that a movie can consist of any number of acts, as long as it consists of like an even number of things. Each thing, we have some talking, then an explosion. Some talking, then another explosion. Now, they did, at one point they had music, then an explosion, and then there was a little kissing and an explosion, but the plot was just an endless series of modules they could have added onto indefinitely. Talk a little, blow something up. So I did find this movie interesting in that it taught me more about, filmmaking structure, and I did find it entertaining in that the explosions were pretty, and hey, I kept watching. But deep, full of development and surprise, original, no. But there was a lot of talking and things blowing up. NT5TM.
Well, that's very interesting, Tony, and I had not thought of that, but you mispronounced it. It's explosion. Explosion. Okay, next up is Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, what did you think about the plot for Star Trek from 2009?
This is KB9SOK. Yes, lots of things went boom. Let's see, was we watching Star Wars or Star Trek? Oh, wait a minute, it's supposed to be Star Trek. Yeah. Well, I thought overall the plot was kind of lazy. In fact, after this reboot, I know we're talking about this film, but the following films all were basically the same thing. We have somebody just looking for revenge in every film. Kirk is a complete mess at each film, and then he pulls his act together towards the end. So it, I know they kind of try to explain that from his upbringing, not his father, but to me it felt lazy. Yes, it is a good popcorn movie, but to me it didn't feel like a Star Trek movie. This felt more like just a science action movie. Not that that's always bad. I expect that with my Star Wars, and I enjoy Star Wars. But when it comes to Star Trek, I expect it to be more cerebral. I expect it to require some actual thought. It's supposed to be provoking. It's supposed to make you actually think about, what is going on. And this didn't. This was just simply pew, 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 and yes, more talking. So yeah, I was a little disappointed in that effect. Now, as far as the plot, the whole thing started off kind of weird. You've got a star that's going to explode, and it's like, well, first of all, that's not something that just generally happens instantly. So why didn't they just evacuate the planet? They had the technology, they had ships, so that part didn't really make a lot of sense to me. I could get that they still want to try to save their planet, but even if they were able to consume the star, now you have no sun, so the planet would be in trouble anyway. So the whole started off kind of rocky, I felt. And then, and also, too, why did Spock bring enough, whatever red matter is, to, when only a drop of it can consume a planet, did you really need literally gallons of it? So it just, started off very strange in that respect. But yes, it was a very simple plot overall. I felt that, I know it's kind of a reboot, but they, a lot of the characters, they completely, I think he still would have been a little more the classic, very confident person that he is. And, Spock, well, I'll stay away from characterization. That's round two. The plot was very simple. Lots of explosions. Very predictable. I didn't hate this movie. It was okay, but it just didn't feel like Star Trek. So anyway, that's all I got. Back to that. KB9 SOK.
Okie doke. Thank you, Sean. We'll be back to you in a little bit. Next, WB5OZL, Miss Brenda over in Dallas. Yes, you saw it. What did you think of the plot for Star Trek 2009?
This is WB5OZL. Well, the first time I saw this movie in the theater, I really couldn't wrap my brain around this alternate universe. And I'm still having trouble. I'm having trouble with having both Spocks within feet of each other at the end. That just can't end well. Something really bad is going to happen as a result of that. But the plot, it was okay. I don't think it was stellar. I don't think it was a really complicated or involved plot, and way too much just blowing stuff up and having fights, and these kinds of movies, they always have their fights on these platforms where they're just inches away from a long, long drop-off, and that makes me very uncomfortable because I'd be very scared to do that, and I'm scared of heights anyway. But, well, I'll save that for characterization. But, they tried. I'll say that. Even bad Star Trek, or maybe mediocre Star Trek, is better than none, so I enjoyed it, I'll say that. But I think the plot could have used some cleaning up. Back to net, WB5OZL.
Thank you, Brenda. I'm Pattern. Next up is Virginia, NB5F. Virginia, what do you think of the plot for Star Trek 2009, KE5ICS?
Okay, well, I saw this movie in the theater probably at least 3 times. I enjoyed it. I thought, as movies go, it's a good movie. It's just it just got a lot of action. It's not boring anywhere. It starts out with lots of emotion. I think the plot is problematic because it's based in it depends completely on time travel. Time travel is something like I dare Star Trek to do a whole season of any show without time travel, and see how they do. Because what Sean was saying, I've thought about that when I was watching. I've seen this movie so many times, but I've thought about that before. It's like, now when a sun goes nova, usually you have a few thousand years of fair warning before, you can sort that out. If, I just, the Romulans are a reasonably advanced people. So that whole premise is kind of bad, and I do think that that Spock connects to the Romulans through the Next Generation the Next Generation storyline. So that works for me. That's okay. But it was definitely kind of a way to get Spock in there. And you were talking about how this reboot changed the timeline and changed it to an alternate timeline to deal with some constraints, and I think probably the biggest constraint that it definitely did away with was Gene Roddenberry's perfect future with perfect humans that all get along, and we have, as Tony said, every one of the numerous acts is punctuated with an explosion. I think it's punctuated with a fight of some kind, whether it's a space battle or a knockdown, drag-out, brutal fight that would send everybody to the hospital, but somehow nobody has to go to the hospital. You know, that's so anti-Gene Roddenberry, as is the everybody's kind of, this is like angry Star Trek, and everybody's kind of pissed off, and like, Spock and the Vulcans, the Vulcan kids bullying him, which is straight out of the animated series. I did like some of the references to things, like Riverside, Iowa, that was added later by fans in Riverside, Iowa, and they actually made it part of the story. I thought that was kind of cool, being that was originally the birthplace of Captain Kirk, but not anymore in the new universe. So I thought that was kind of neat. But yeah, it's very, even down to the line where Dr. McCoy says he lost everything in the divorce, and number one, how can, I'm guessing even perfect humans get divorces, but in the old Star Trek universe, there was no need for money or assets, so how can somebody get everything in the divorce? So, but Star Trek, if you look at it versus its, kind of ideal mindset, even the original series contradicts that constantly. It's just, there's just no way to live in Gene Roddenberry's, version of the future. I don't know that that's possible. Or you don't have conflict, you don't have drama, you don't have development, you can't have an arc if there's no place. If you're perfect, there's no place to go. So the plot definitely had some places to go. There was lots of adventure. It was fun to meet all the new versions of all the characters done by different actors. And the little guy who, unfortunately, a guy who played Chekhov, who is no longer with us, he was fantastic. I love that guy. He did so great with that character. He was so much more Russian than Walter Koenig acted. He was so perfect, and I know they both have Russian ancestry, both actors, I think, but he did such a great job with that. That was just fantastic. I enjoyed all the action, and a lot more like Star Wars in places, but and kind of a long plot line punctuated with time travel, paradoxes and things that, make for many, many plot holes. But it's great to see Leonard Nimoy and all that. I'll get into some other stuff later. But, satisfying at the end. And when it came out, a couple of my brothers and my dad and my stepmom and me and I don't know who all, but a bunch of us went to see it, and then a couple of us decided we wanted to see it again, but we went back over to our dad's house and hung out there for a while till the next show started, and so we actually went right back and saw it again right after we saw it, and that was kind of fun. I hadn't done that in a long time. So anyway, that's probably enough for me, but plot was fine, as in it was tight enough to not be boring. But yeah, lots of fights and lots of violence, and I'm not sure how Captain Kirk survived getting the crap beat out of him by Mr. Spock, but I digress. NV5F.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Virginia. Well, you brought up a lot of good points, and I'm going to make some comments about them here in a little bit. But first, let's wake up Chaz, KF5JHA. Chaz, you're here. You checked in. What did you think about the plot for our fine film, Star Trek from 2009? KE5IGF.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Virginia. I knew Chekhov would get in there somehow. And Brenda, it wasn't stellar, but it was galactic. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to mix my plot with characterization because they're intertwined, in my opinion. So instead of the good Kirk and the good Spock, if you notice, they had troubled youth. Yeah, they had troubled past. And so it was the bad boys that saved the day this time. Yeah, we've had that theme in other movies in the past, but in the Star Trek episodes, not so much. But in this case, yeah, the bad boys were the ones that saved the day. I think it was kind of interesting, especially with time travel. Yes, there's time travel. It happens. It seems to be on a regular basis in lots of these science fiction movies. But it makes it more fun because you can do lots of things by going forward and backwards in time. Let me see, what else? That's enough for now. We'll talk more later. This is KF5 JHA.
All right, okie dokie. Well, let's see. At the bottom of the list, I'm going to go ahead and ask if anyone else out there would like to check in. Tonight's movie we are discussing is Star Trek from 2009, the reboot series. If you'd like to join us, please come with your call sign, your name, and did you see the film? That you do not have to have seen the film to check in, although I suspect you probably have. But you got to check in to do so. Okay, well, we'll have a short list this evening. That's okay. Well, my thoughts, of course, I'm a Star Trek fan. We're all Star Trek fans. When I first saw the reboot, I thought, this is pretty good. I thought it was interesting in the idea that we would bring in characters and rejuvenate the series, literally and figuratively, would happen. It was part of, again, looking back on the past of Star Trek rather than to the future, which has been going on quite consistently for quite a while until fairly recently with the TV series. So I guess I'm okay with that. I kind of like to see new Trek based on new Trek, not on old, reformed Trek. So I initially didn't have a real super fondness for the idea of doing this again. But that's okay. Certainly J.J. Abrams did a great job on it as far as popularizing it. One of the things you have to realize with any Star Trek film, and this is true with any movie too, Star Trek was one of the first television series to be turned into a movie series. And as such, you have to have a large audience. And this movie does what all the others did, with the exception of Star Trek The Motion Picture, which was considered a bomb, is they have to have a villain, somebody to go against, something that's really simple. Keep it simple, lots of explosions, everything going on, which of course with Wrath of Khan they did. And they've arguably been called the best of the Star Trek movies of all series, movie series. So I guess you have to take that into account, and in fact that J.J. went on later on to recreate Star Trek 2 in the next film, so go figure, right? Some of the snippets, obviously there were Easter eggs throughout it, which are always fun, and the more you listen and the more you watch, you'll find more and more Easter eggs in the film. So for a fan like me, and probably you, you're looking for those things. There's even a cameo with the guy who played Captain Kirk in the internet fan-created series of New Voices. And he's in there. I think it's, yeah. He's in there. So you'll see him for about half a second. Voices of Angel Barrett and Mary Cooper again. And some other things. That was the last thing she did before she passed on. Okay. Like the snippets with Cooper back in the animated series was fun and fairly faithful to actually the cartoon, believe it or not, from 1973. The Bruce Cooper the actors themselves did quite well. I'll talk about that a little bit. Plot, I still, let me tell you the one thing that's right. Do you like your Star Trek with or without science? I like Star Trek with science whenever possible. I like things to make sense and to fit well. And with the Enterprise and all the crazy things that happened to it did not make any sense to me. The red matter thing was almost absurd, especially when you carry as much as they do. That makes a lot of sense either. Plus, that stupid engineering that is nothing more than a Budweiser brewery. I know it's a Budweiser brewery, but it does. It's just kind of just chaps my eye. And then the place looks like kind of weird. Well, television. All right, I'm wandering here. I just didn't. I liked it, and it's very watchable, but it's not quite the kind of Star Trek that I like. But I'll watch it. Okay, well, that was terrible. Let's go to the top of the list, and we'll talk about organization. Great comment.
Okay. Yeah, it just the whole kind of going back to the plot thing, or this movie in general. Like Virginia, my whole family went as well, and cousins and aunts, and actually it was the last time that we all got together to do something major like that. So yeah, even though I kind of beat up this movie a little bit, we did enjoy it, but it just to me wasn't Star Trek, and just kind of the whole time travel thing. I like a good time travel movie when that's really what the story's about. But when they do these time travels like this, to me it's just kind of lazy writing. Just because it's basically there's no consequences when you have time travel. Because if something goes wrong, you just go back in time and fix it. So no one's ever going to die or is going to be gone forever. So you just go back in time and bring them back. So I kind of hate when they do this. Star Trek does do it a lot. But it is what it is. Yeah, on the characters, I will just start by saying I do think that all the actors, for the most part, did a really good job. I really did like the actors in this film. I think they truly gave it their all and were very, didn't just kind of just walk through it. But I think that they all did an excellent job in this. And now, when it comes to after writing, once again, I get the whole Kirk thing, his life changing completely, and that explains why he's different. Even though, to be honest, out of all the actors, he might have been my least favorite, actually, even though I thought he did okay. But it doesn't really kind of explain Spock, why he's different. You would think that, that wouldn't have impacted him, what had happened to Kirk's dad, so why is he so timid and not as confident as he is in the series? So that was, I did think the actor did an excellent job playing him, but I was a little surprised by that. And yeah, I do agree that, I think Chekhov was dead on. For her, I thought that once again the actress did an excellent job. It didn't really feel like Uhura from the original series. I actually preferred the way Uhura is being portrayed in New World, the new series. I think that's, probably a better representation. Even though this actress did a good job in this film, it just didn't really feel like Uhura. And, like I said, I don't know what impact, Kirk, why would this completely change her and Spock? But I realize they're trying to make it more interesting, obviously with the love affair there. But it just didn't seem off to me. I think the actor who played Scotty was good, even though once again it didn't really quite feel like Scotty. But it was, he was good comic relief. I do felt that it was funny, his interaction with him and the little guy, and I actually didn't like him in this film, but once again it didn't quite feel like the original characters. And once again, I don't know why they would be different, and I know they were just trying to update them, but yeah, what it is there, I guess. Overall, I thought the actors were excellent. I think the characterization did feel different across the board for the most part. So, personally, I was a little disappointed with that, but it's what it is. So, yeah, back to that. KB9, that's okay.
All right, thank you, Sean. Let me go on down to Brenda. Back to check on Tony in a bit and let's combine his next round. WB5OZL, Brenda, your thoughts on characterization and acting for Star Trek 2000?
This is WB5OZL. Well, I thought they put together a pretty good list of characters. Some of them were A-listers even, and even if they weren't, an amazing job. It was, in many cases you didn't expect them to be that good, but they were. And I think they all just did a superb job of portraying those characters. I think this thing was a little too frenetic, and maybe if they had slowed down a little bit and let the characters develop a little more, like they did in the original series, it might have been a little more satisfying for me. It was just, it was kind of like watching a Roadrunner cartoon. Just zip, zip, zip. And, but they, certainly gave it their all, and they were amazing. I can't think of anybody that I would say was miscast. But, of course, there are lots of characters in here to keep up with, and that makes it a little hard. All right, back to net, WB50ZL.
Okay, thank you, Brenda. Boy, we're zipping right through it. Virginia, NB5F, your thoughts on characterization?
Okay, thank you, Tom. Well, so I think that, the main person who's supposed to be different in this is definitely Captain Kirk. And so it does seem like the rest of the universe and the rest of the people in the universe being so different is a little bit, it's a little bit arbitrary. Like I said, I think it's almost like an attempt at doing not to mirror a universe, but maybe a little less intense take on that. Like let's go to a different, let's start everything over, and have everybody come from less than ideal situations. I think the casting overall was good. Spock, I think, is portrayed as a younger version of Spock. He's older than Kirk, because about the time that, Kirk is getting through Starfleet Academy, Spock is like there giving the tests, and that implies that he's well graduated and maybe has been through all the stuff that's going on in Strange New Worlds right now. And in that show, there's a lot of stuff about explaining why he, kind of went more to his Vulcan side based on his relationships in that show and how painful they were for him, and and his whole thing about considering doing the Kolinahr and all that in the early Star Trek movies and that sort of thing. So I'm okay with how he was portrayed, because he was the younger version of the person that we got to know, in the original series. That he's fine. Kirk, the casting on him, I thought was pretty good. Enough to not be a look-alike, but, you know, just he has something similar in his mannerisms, and I think they did all right with him. I liked the Scotty and Dr. McCoy had just enough similarities to their character, and the thing about Star Trek, despite the fact that when I watched the original series, those shows are very, very cerebral, very serious, but there's something that's hard to put your finger on about those characters in that cast, where everybody's got just a little bit of whimsy to them, to where you know there can be it can all turn on a dime and be where suddenly they're just not taking the whole thing that seriously, even if it's just for an episode or just for a few minutes. And overall, I think they did well in this cast, and I'm gonna echo Sean. The one character that I feel like was miscast was Uhura. I did not think that gal who played her is a great actress. She's been in a lot of stuff, but she just doesn't feel right to me. But Uhura in Strange New Worlds is great. I love her. She's one of my favorites in that show. They did such a great job with her there. But you know, the Uhura in this one, she's too intense, she's too serious, she's too, I don't know, just, she's like a super hottie, you know, but super serious. She's like that unapproachable, like, super hot chick who's, you know, such a badass at everything she does that she's intimidating, and I don't know, she just doesn't have that approachability about her. Maybe that's why Spock fell in love with her. I don't know. Anyway, I didn't really think she was all that great, but I liked overall. I thought everybody else kind of captured their character. I did like, as I mentioned before in the last part, I liked Chekhov. Loved his character. I love how, you know, it was just so good. It was just so well done version of Chekhov. Let's see. Oh, I wanted to make a note about the Star Trek the Motion Picture. Contrary to popular belief, you know, the movie was very criticized, you know, in the years after it came out, but it did very well at the box office. It took them years to make it. It was very anticipated. It was a couple years after Star Wars. People were waiting for Empire Strikes Back. You know, they'd been waiting forever for a new Star Trek series that didn't happen over and over again. And I think if you calculate for inflation, it's the next Star Trek movie, the only Star Trek movie to ever do better than Star Trek the Motion Picture at the box office was this one, Star Trek 2009. Star Trek the Motion Picture did a lot of, the budget on it went nuts when they were making it. It went way over budget, but as far as box office receipts, I believe it did extremely well. So it was just one of those movies that no one, you know, it's kind of like everything was trying to be either Star Wars or 2001 back then, and I think it couldn't figure out which one it wanted to be. So it's problematic, but, you know, I go back and watch it now, and I like it more than I used to. I think it actually, it's kind of like the 2001 of the Star Trek movies. It's like, you know, when 2001 first came out, even when I was a kid and went and saw 2010, you know, it was almost like I would talk about 2001 because I was all obsessed with it, and people would just act like, what kind of weirdo are you? Why do you like that movie? It's so weird. Nobody can understand it. And, like, even in the 80s, it was still like this super weird, like, you know, almost forgotten movie, you know, and now 35, 40 years after that, it's now this masterpiece, you know, and Star Trek the Motion Picture, I think it holds up a little better over time, so that's just going to be my little addendum there on the end. But yeah, I thought the characters in this were likable and interesting, and I like Leonard Nimoy as Ancient Spock, and I think Zachary Quinto does very well playing Spock in a movie where Leonard Nimoy is also playing Spock. That's big shoes to fill, while the original guy is somehow still there. And I liked how he did it, and I think it was vulnerable, and it was realistic, as based on Spock's youth at the time, and the fact that he is half human, which we all seem to forget. So he can be just as much of a human as he is a Vulcan. So anyway, that's it for me. NV5F.
All good points. All right, let's go to Chaz. Wake up, Chaz. Here's your opportunity to talk about characterization. K5JHA, KT5ITX. Chaz.
I have to do a disclaimer. Bob the cat has arrived. He's close to the radio, so there could be anything that can happen. Green women. Okay, they're back again. Kirk can't get away from them. Oh, well. I just thought I'd throw that one out there. Let's see now. What else? Spock. What about the Colinar and all that stuff? Wasn't he already engaged and stuff in the original one and semi-married? They could have girlfriends as Vulcans now? Okay, I'm concerned about that one. Oh, and the drill bit going into Vulcan. There were 3 jumpers, right? That jumped down. Kirk, Sulu, and this other guy. I can't remember his name. Guess who got killed off right away? The red shirt guy. You don't want to be wearing a red shirt in Star Trek. Yep, nope. He got burned up. Oh, Sulu. On the original Star Trek TV series, remember the one time he actually was running up and down the hallways with a sword? Guess what he was doing on the drill bit? Yep, had a sword. Okay. There's a lot of similarities and yet a lot of differences too in between the two. It was kind of interesting to see the differences and the similarities that combined together. To try to do a reboot is kind of a hard thing to do, but I think they did it well. I enjoyed Star Trek, I have enjoyed Star Wars, and I enjoyed the reboot. So I just watched recently The Force Awakens, and I realized that was a pretty good movie too. Anyway, back to net control, KF5JJ.
Very good. Thank you, Chaz. Okay, it's the bottom of the list again. Tony, I'm going to come for you here in a minute. Any other check-ins, please come now. Actually go into the not established characters. We've got Kirk's father, George Kirk, played by Chris Hemsworth. I have not seen him in any of the the comic book things. I don't watch those, so I don't know. He plays Thor. At any rate, I like him as George Kirk and the mother. Both of those were quite interesting. Lionel Kirk, played by Jennifer Morrison. I thought it was interesting because the first time I'd seen this in the theater, there was a couple sitting in front of me, and these two characters are only on screen for about 10 minutes, if that. And at the end, just as George Kirk goes and rams the ship into the Kelvin into the boy, I'm having problems remembering things. The Romulan little ship. They are crying. They are crying because they know they're going to end, and the baby's going to be born and all that. If you can do that in like 5-10 minutes, and you care about the characters, it's some pretty good acting. Plus the music was pretty darn good too, giving you the boo-boos along the way. So I thought that was good. I liked Ben Cross as Sarek. He was great in that. I thought it was wonderful. And channeled that character quite well. Now, getting into the rest of the folks, and I liked this cast very much, and they really carried it. It was very important that this be a good cast, that they be believable, and somewhat similar to the characterization that's done by the original actors. It doesn't have to be identical, and they were not, and there were some differences, maybe gross differences, but overall I thought that they did really well. Chris Pine did a great job mimicking some of William Shatner's mannerisms. His going through the door, getting off the transporter, and that, he always led with his chest forward. That was William Shatner doing that, and Chris Pine picked that up, along with the phraseology along the way, so you can't ask for anything better than that. It's as close as you can get. Spock, Zachary Quinto looks like Leonard Nimoy, let's face it. Younger version, very close. That was a no-brainer. Next up was Carl Urban. I love this guy. I've seen him in other stuff. He played Dr. McCoy. He did a great job. He even got the voice down quite well. I liked that a lot. He was very enjoyable. Zoe Saldana, I don't know, as Uhura. She was okay. I agree. Strange New Worlds, I think the actress is a little stronger than, but they give her great writing too, which helps a lot. Simon Pegg as Scotty. He did a great job, and he got the mannerisms. He even looks like him, I think. I thought that went really well. He was very enjoyable, and the comic really was good. John Cho, I've seen him in other stuff playing Sulu. I thought he did a good job with that. I enjoyed it. And yes, I agree. Anton Yeltsin playing Pavel Chekhov did a great job. Better than the original. Ultratronic, I think. Very, very entertaining. So there you have it. And then one that wasn't quite that good, but it was fine, was the Christopher Pike role, but played by Bruce Greenwood. Having seen Anson Mount take that role on and make it his own, he owns that role now, and it's difficult for me to watch. While I thought Bruce Greenwood did a really good job, I think Anson Mount is Captain Pike. So, but, you know, this was 2009, so what? Okay, well, those are my comments on characterization and acting. One thing I will say, my final comment about all the actors, this was the first time we've had a Star Trek movie where it has been cast from the ground up without influences from Gene Roddenberry and production crews from television, meaning that when you hired these people, you got them cheaper because they weren't A-list actors yet. Well, we got A-list actors. You can see what you can do with those characters immediately. They look great. So I think that matters. One of the things that I've always had problems with Star Trek, particularly Star Trek series, the first go-around before we went to what they call New Trek now, is that casts are somewhat stiff, and they remain kind of stiff, self-aware through every series, right through to Enterprise. I just never felt that the acting was very natural. It wasn't until Picard season 3 where the season cast from Star Trek The Next Generation come back, 30 years later, and I think they did a fine job. They weren't self-aware. The acting wasn't forced, and it looked good. They'd aged and they'd matured as actors along the way, so I thought that was really great. So if you think about that and look at this cast as the first to do that, maybe the only one so far, I like what they did, and they worked well together as an ensemble cast. If you see any of the outtakes in that, you'll see that they did work well as an ensemble cast. J.J. Abrams tried to make it a happy set, and I think that helps too. I think actors playing these characters do a better job and play off of one another if they trust their fellow actors and like them. And I think that was very true, and it looked really good that way. Okay, that's it from me. I'm going to go to the top of the list, and I'm going to see Tony, wake up. Are you out there? NT5TM, you get a double dose. If you're still there, you may be. Tell us about characterization, then after that, you can talk about anything technical or anything else we want to talk about for Star Trek 2009 from KE5ITS.
Let's see, has my elevation improved? Yes, Aaron and I were out walking, and I was more than 60 feet below my usual level, so yeah, I was not surprised. When we used to rent a house down there, we couldn't reach Richardson with an antenna on the third story of the house. So thank you for not forgetting me. You know, I certainly thought everyone was well cast, and they were young and good looking, and yeah, not stiff and artificial. And I don't disagree with things that people have said. I do feel like the writers stuck them with a few cliches that stuck out. Darn it, Jim, I'm a doctor, not a physicist. That was, I don't know. I know he eventually started saying that all the time, but heck, that annoyed me in the original series. So I wasn't happy to see its first appearance here. So again, I thought they were well cast, but I think the writers stuck them with a few too many cliches. You know, again, I did enjoy the movie. I'm not trying to slam it. That was just something a little hard for me to get into, and yes, I'm sure it was very hard for the actor playing Spock, because you're right there. As far as the technical stuff, there's really not a lot to say. It was expensive, modern technical stuff, and it looked like expensive, modern technical stuff. Now, I'm always a little tired of this, and I do have to mention it. You know, in real life, evil doesn't look evil. I love a scene in the movie The Guns of Navarone from all those many decades ago, when a German doctor promises an Allied prisoner of war officer that we do not make war on wounded men. You can leave your man here in the hospital, and we're not going to torture him and give him drugs. Yeah, and the doctor is, of course, well-groomed, and it's a nice-looking hospital, so of course they torture the guy and give him drugs. I mean, evil can happen in a perfectly well-lit room with perfectly polite, well-groomed people. I wish I could stop the trend of everything looking just so evil. The good guys are warm colors and bright light, and the bad guys have lots of cool colors, and everything is underlit. How do they even avoid tripping over the set? OSHA. OSHA, where are you? Don't villains have some sort of OSHA? At least put some black and yellow striped tape on all the steps on that evil spaceship. So, yeah, that's never going to stop, and I'm never going to stop whining about it. Oh, well, it was an expensive, high-quality movie, and it sure looked it, and the actors did well, but were a little hamstrung by the writers, I felt. NT5TM.
Oh, Tony, I always love it when you come up with comments like this, especially when you go on a rant. You are hilarious. I would agree with that. I will say this, you know, if you ever watch the Star Wars, and I guess you're a fan, how come they never have any railings, you know? And people are surprised when the characters fall off the side of the high suspension bridge thing they got. No railings, no safety railings anywhere. Okay, next up is Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, you've got it. Whatever you want to talk about. You can talk about the special effects, music, something we missed along the way, whatever. Go ahead from KB5ITS.
This is KB9SOK. Well, you know, safety railings on something the size of a Death Star would be very expensive. That'd be a lot of extra cost. Maybe that's why they did away with it. Yeah, that's a good comment. Yeah, I thought that obviously the production value, as Tony mentioned, of course they're top notch. You know, they spent a lot of money on, you know, CGI, and it was well done. As far as the aesthetics, of course, we know J.B. Abrams loves explosions. We know that he loves the lens flare, which he, you know, completely overdone in this movie. So either you like it or hate it, and it didn't bother me. But definitely different aesthetics. The ship overall, once again, they make these things huge. He tried to make it almost look like a large submarine with all the pipes exposed and all that, instead of everything being covered up. parts of the specs I was okay with. Part of it, it was, they made the ship look so different than the original. I know they wanted to show off the CG and make it really look nice, but yeah, parts of it I kind of like, parts of it I kind of don't. I kind of got mixed feelings on that part of it. The music I thought was really good. I think there were several scenes that were really good music in it. It was nice to see that they did put some money into that, unlike some of the movies we talked about recently. So that was excellent. Yeah, overall, not much to say really on the special effects, just because it's just a lot of explosions and stuff. Like I said, I guess if you like the modern aesthetics, then you might be okay with what they did with the ship. I know they can't make it look exactly like the old one, because obviously you wouldn't have just a couple of panels with a couple of flip switches anymore. But they definitely went to the extreme with the redesign. But yeah, once again, I did, I've kind of bashed this movie a little bit. I did, enjoy watching it the first time I seen it. But it's still not my favorite. It's just still, at the end of the day, it just doesn't feel like Star Trek. As I'm sure you all know, they're now in the process of working on the next one, getting the script put together. Apparently they've gotten the cast to agree to come back. And will I go see it? Yeah, of course I will, Star Trek. But yeah, I'm just kind of hoping maybe in this next time around, maybe they will. I realize, you make a good comment, Tom, about, when you talk about a movie, you got to have something exciting happen. You got to have a bad guy. You got to have something to draw people into the theaters. But it would be nice. You can do it, with more intelligent reasons for the situation, and it would be nice if they did that. But Tony, I like your comment about, the bad guys have always got to look evil, or they got scars, or they're rough looking, or they're wearing a black hat, and you like in the old movies, cowboy movies, So I know they like to make them stick out, but it would be interesting if they had somebody look perfectly normal, not once they were evil. So anyway, that's all I got. Looking forward to the next one. KV9SOK.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Next up is Brenda, WB50ZL. Brenda, tell us what you think of whatever you want. Special effects, music, something we missed along the way. Go ahead, from KE5I6. Okay, I know what happened. She fell asleep. Next up is Virginia. I'll come back to her. She'll wake up just before we close out. NV5F, Virginia, what do you think of anything? Ditto what I told Brenda that she is hearing in her sleep. Go ahead, Virginia, from KE5I6.
Well, I can't blame Brenda. Right before the net started, I was getting a little snoozy, and I was like, I need to move around or something. But this discussion has been lively and has kept me awake. This movie, I do remember when I first saw it, I immediately noticed the use, I thought it was pretty good use of the Star Trek sound library. I thought that was cool. It definitely gave it that Star Trek-y atmosphere. And then, of course, it's hard to ignore all the lens flares, which are a product of the use of actual anamorphic lenses, which do cool, weird things to light if you put it in just the right places. And maybe there was a little much of that, but I thought it was cool. I know it continues into the other movies, but it's all real. That's the thing I thought was so cool about it, is that it's all done with actual lenses and actual lights. So I definitely appreciate that. I'm with Tony on the bad guys being unabashedly and irrationally evil and mean and mad and angry, and they're just going to take it out on everybody. And that was kind of the bad guy in this movie. He was just sort of like, my planet was destroyed. Well, everybody else's planet was destroyed too, not just yours. It's like all the other Romulans, they're all taking it pretty rough too, I'm sure. But I don't know. But bad guys, obviously, they've got some other baggage they're hauling around that makes them act like that. So, yeah, music, pretty good. You know, it kind of sticks to you. You can kind of remember the themes. It actually attempts to have some kind of themes. I think I commented last night while we were watching it that some of the stuff they chose was just for the heck of it, like, you know, Scotty being materialized in the Enterprise's water cooling system that to me represents a giant. It looks to me like a giant like hamster habit trail full of water. You know, I'm just like, well, that's interesting. I'm not sure why a starship would have that on it, but there was some funny stuff like that in it. Some aesthetically cool stuff. The remodeled, you know, exterior of the Enterprise looked awesome. It still looked like the Enterprise, just kind of souped up. So, you know, the redesigns on the Enterprise over the years have been interesting. Some I've liked more than others. I do like the Strange New Worlds Enterprise as well. So, anyway, overall, I thought it looked good, sounded good, generally watchable. And then I also love how whenever there's an ice planet, it's always just totally sucks and it's horrible, and there's always some just creatures that you're like, how can they live on a planet that's so, yeah, I don't know, just the monsters on ice planets always blow my mind, and ice planets just suck. So I'll just finish with that in V5F.
All right, thank you, Virginia. And then finally, we have Chaz, KF5JHA. Chaz, any comments you want to make? These can be textual nature, the music, the acting, well, the lighting, the whatever, or if something you missed or would like to discuss that you missed on the first two rounds. Go ahead, KE5IC.
Oh, I'm so glad you got to me before midnight because, you know, I turn into a pumpkin. Anyway, I forgot about something on the characterization. There was interplay between the new Spock and Bones, but I don't think there was enough developed based upon previous things in the old Star Trek. I would have enjoyed seeing more interaction between those two, and that developed a lot more. Let me see. Lens flares. I've heard a lot of people that didn't like the lens flares at all that was in here, but I enjoyed it. It was something different, and yes, it was done a lot, but I enjoyed that quite a bit. Finally, music. I think music can either make or break a movie, and the music that's been in Star Trek, Star Wars, the movies, I think it's been excellent, and in fact, I have the soundtracks for most of these movies, and I listen to them on a regular basis. So, music I really enjoy in the movies, and this movie is no different. I do enjoy listening to the soundtrack. So that's it. KF5JHA, back to our net control, Mr. Iron Man.
Well, thank you, Chaz. Thanks for your comments. Well, let's see. What have I got to say? Yeah, well, let me go back and see if Brenda's there. WB50ZL. Brenda, are you out there, or are you still snoring away before we close it up? WB50ZL from KE5ICX.
This is WB50ZL. Thank you, Tom. Well, you know, we're kind of getting to the dead horse phase of this thing. Everything's been said. Everybody's had their opinion, and we agreed or disagreed or whatever. You know, the music was good, special effects were good, blah blah blah. And time travel sucks. Time travel always makes my teeth itch. It's too weird, and things just don't work out. But you know, it makes for interesting stories. Let's see. Well, I just pretty much wasted all my comments. I don't really have much more to say, and it is almost midnight, so I think I'll pack it in. This is WV50ZL, back to net.
All right, well, that was easy, short and sweet. Yeah, I agree with you. We kind of hit the same topics over and over again. The only thing I'll add is I thought the music was wonderful. Was it Michael Cicino? I think did the music for this. He's been a J.J. Abrams guy for a long time. He brought him into the mainstream, and after seeing his work done on what was it, Medal of Honor, what is it, game series, and so he's been doing things for quite a while. And he does a really good job. I like the way he integrated the music and waited and teased us until the very end with the original Alexander Courage main theme and just pulled out all the stops for that, by the way. If you stuck around for the credits, it's really well worth it. It's really wonderful, rousing rendition, and then he brings his music, his original music back into it as conclusion credits. So I thought that was really great. Special effects, okay. Digital effects, I think they go a little overboard. But, you know, what do you expect anymore? I still have a problem with the size differential of the Enterprise. I know this one is way bigger. It's bigger than Next Gen's Enterprise D and all that. I guess it's okay because it's the future. We don't know what the future is going to bring us. So even the original Enterprise is probably not realistic in the scheme of things, but who knows? I won't be around in 200 years to know. But it'll be interesting for future generations if we're around to come up with that. So I was pleased enough with the film to hope to see the next one and enjoy it as much. As it turned out, I did not. The third film that came out I thought was better, even though it wasn't critically acclaimed and it was panned by others. I think Sean said that there was another film in production. There's been a film in and out of production now for the last 5-6 years, and they just keep having problems. But because of the success of the television series and blowing up Star Trek as a hot commodity, they appear this time to be serious about it. They're going to go back and do something with Star Trek, J.J. Abrams as well. So we'll see. Paramount's having trouble monetizing everything right now, especially their streaming services, which have just tanked in as far as cost and benefit. So, and Disney may be the purchaser this time around, like they did 20th Century Fox. If that happens, expect the world to change. Okay, coming up next week, we will do a comedy, if you want to call it that. It's called Have Rockets Will Travel with Larry, Moe, and Joe, I think, of the Three Stooges. I guess I didn't know this, but there was actually a second film they did, Three Stooges in Orbit. But this is, I think, the better one of the two. I'd completely forgotten about that other film as existing. But it will be Have Rocket Will Travel. All that information's on the Afterglow movie site, and I will send out the link tomorrow, sometime probably in the morning. That's it. Thank you, everybody. Had a good time. Hope you did too. We'll do this again next week. This is KE5I6. Close it out now. Say bye-bye, bye-bye. And I may go right to bed. I'm cool. See y'all. KE5I6.
I just had to do this. This is KF5JHA doing my check off.